In science fiction, few creatures have sparked as much curiosity and fear as the xenomorph. First introduced in Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien, these terrifying extraterrestrial beings have captivated audiences for decades. They are fast, deadly, intelligent, and utterly alien, both biologically and behaviorally. But while their physical menace is undeniable, an even more intriguing question remains. Do they possess a language, and if so, can we decode it? Understanding the xenomorph's method of communication might not only reveal insights about their species, but could also challenge our fundamental understanding of what it means to communicate. The xenomorph is not your typical alien being. Unlike humanoid extraterrestrials who often speak in strange dialects or use advanced technology to communicate with humans, xenomorphs do not exhibit any overtly recognizable form of verbal language. They don't talk, gesture in meaningful ways, or use tools that signify a culture based on symbols. Instead, they rely on primal instincts, hissing, screeching, and highly coordinated behavior to interact with one another and their environment. But just because their language is not immediately obvious doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The absence of traditional communication may only suggest that they use an unconventional form of language, one we have yet to understand. Communication in nature is diverse. From the sonar pulses of bats to the complex dances of honeybees and the infrasonic rumbles of elephants, life on Earth offers many examples of nonverbal and even non-audible communication. Dolphins use clicks and whistles in ways that suggest the presence of complex information exchange. Even some species of fungi and plants communicate via chemical signaling. It is entirely plausible that an alien species, especially one as biologically unique as the xenomorph, might rely on a form of communication so foreign to us that we simply don't recognize it as language. One possible avenue for xenomorph communication is chemical. Many insects, such as ants and bees, release pheromones to convey information to others in their colony. These chemical signals can indicate a wide range of meanings: danger, food sources, territory, and more. Given that xenomorphs are often portrayed in hives with a queen and exhibit coordinated swarm behavior, a pheromone-based communication system would make sense. Their apparent ability to cooperate, defend the queen, and launch coordinated attacks suggests some form of information sharing that goes beyond mere instinct. Perhaps they release specific chemical signals through glands, which are then detected by specialized receptors among others in the group. Another intriguing possibility lies in bioelectric or electromagnetic communication. Some species of fish and insects are known to emit electric fields as a means of navigation and communication. Xenomorphs, with their biomechanical bodies and often exaggerated senses, could emit or sense electromagnetic fields in ways we cannot perceive. This form of silent, undetectable communication would be ideal for a predatory species that thrives in darkness and secrecy. It would allow them to transmit signals without alerting prey or enemies. If their bodies can generate subtle electrical fields, perhaps modulated patterns in these emissions carry encoded messages about position, threat levels, or strategic objectives. Behavioral communication is another candidate. Many animals rely on posture, movement, and spatial orientation to signal intent or emotion. Birds perform mating dances, dogs display submission through body posture, and wolves use facial expressions to show aggression or submission. In xenomorphs, certain behaviors such as tilting the head, hissing, tail whipping, or crawling in particular patterns may serve as a form of body language. Given their apparent intelligence and ability to assess complex environments, it's possible that xenomorphs possess a lexicon of movement-based signals understood by others of their kind. Such a system may not constitute language in the human sense, but it would still qualify as a structured mode of communication. Sound could also play a larger role than we suspect. While xenomorphs do not speak, they emit various noises: screeches, hisses, growls, and other inhuman sounds. These vocalizations might not be random expressions of rage or pain. Like whales or wolves, the tonal quality, frequency, and rhythm of their sounds may contain encoded messages. Without a proper understanding of their auditory range and brain function, we might be overlooking a highly developed acoustic language. If these sounds differ based on context, attack, alert, feeding, reproduction, they may represent a sophisticated audio language, albeit one without syntax or grammar as we understand it. Yet, decoding such a language, assuming it exists, poses formidable challenges. Firstly, we do not have a real xenomorph to study. Our entire understanding of them comes from fiction. However, let's assume for the sake of argument that they are real and can be studied. The first step in decoding their communication would be observation. We would need extensive footage of their interactions in varied contexts. Scientists would record every vocalization, posture, and behavior alongside environmental cues and outcomes. Sophisticated pattern recognition software, combined with machine learning, could then begin analyzing these events to identify recurring correlations. For instance, if a xenomorph always emits a specific hiss before retreating, researchers might infer that the hiss signals danger or a strategic withdrawal. Similarly, a tail wave followed by an attack might indicate a pre-battle signal. The more data collected, the more likely researchers can build a behavioral lexicon. Over time, they might assemble a preliminary dictionary of xenomorph communication. But this would still fall short of full comprehension. Knowing that a certain hiss means danger is not the same as understanding the grammar, syntax, and nuance behind it. Is it a command or an observation? Does it include emotional valence or urgency? Does it change based on proximity to the queen or the presence of humans? To get deeper, we would need to understand their neurobiology. Language is rooted in cognition. Human communication relies on areas like Broca's and Wernicke's regions of the brain. Birds and dolphins also show specialized brain areas for vocal learning. Do xenomorphs have comparable structures? Are their brains centralized or distributed across the body? Understanding how their brains process stimuli could hint at whether they possess symbolic thought, a necessary precursor to true language. If they merely react to stimuli without internal representation, their communication might be limited to instinctual signaling rather than language. On the other hand, if they can form abstract concepts and pass them to others, then a true alien language may exist. Another important consideration is intent. Language is not just about sending signals, but doing so with deliberate intent to inform, command, or deceive. Many animals communicate, but only a few do so with the intentionality that characterizes language. If xenomorphs merely react to chemical or auditory stimuli, their signals may be more akin to biological reflexes than intentional speech. But if they adapt their communication based on who is present, or strategize based on outcomes, that indicates a deeper level of cognitive processing. In various alien films, xenomorphs display behavior that implies tactical reasoning, problem-solving, and even understanding human weaknesses. Could that extend to deliberate communication? The question of whether we could ever speak to a xenomorph is even more complex. Assuming we decoded their communication system, could we replicate it? Emitting pheromones in precise patterns or modulating electromagnetic signals would require highly advanced technology. Even then, our lack of a shared biology or cultural context would limit the depth of communication. It would be like trying to speak to a dolphin using a human keyboard, possible on a limited level, but lacking emotional resonance or deep understanding. Without shared evolutionary pressures, values, or sensory experiences, true mutual understanding might remain elusive. There is also the matter of whether xenomorphs would want to communicate with us. In all portrayals, they are shown as highly territorial and aggressive, treating other life forms primarily as hosts or threats. Their language, if it exists, may have evolved solely for interspecies coordination rather than interspecies diplomacy. For them, silence toward outsiders might not be a limitation, but a strategic advantage. Speaking to prey makes no sense for a predator whose success relies on surprise and fear. In this light, xenomorph language might function more like military code than open conversation, concise, efficient, and brutally practical. Despite these barriers, the theoretical attempt to decode xenomorph communication is valuable. It forces us to confront the limits of human-centric thinking. We often define language through the lens of human speech, syntax, grammar, symbols, but the universe may host forms of intelligence with entirely different parameters. A language made of scent, electricity, or movement might be just as complex as any spoken tongue, just not immediately intelligible to us. Learning to recognize such systems would not only prepare us for possible extraterrestrial contact, but also deepen our appreciation for the diversity of communication already present on Earth. In the end, the xenomorph's language, if it exists, may not be decodable in the way we hope. It may be beyond our sensory perception, incompatible with our logic, or too deeply rooted in a biology we do not share. But the very act of asking the question is important. It challenges us to redefine language, intelligence, and understanding. It reminds us that alien does not simply mean different. It means unknowable, unpredictable, and possibly untranslatable. And yet, it also invites us to keep looking, listening, and learning. Because in the silence of the xenomorph, there might just be a message waiting to be heard.